Come on, stream. You got it. And we should be live now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Tailosive tech audiences and Apple Sheep everywhere. How's it going today? How are we doing? It's the Tuesday after the storm. It's the first, I think, live stream we've had, hopefully an effective and working live stream we've had, that will feature the iPhone 10, which I have with me and I've been using so much recently. Also with the exclusive 11.2 live wallpaper that we all saw in the marketing campaign for the iPhone 10. I love this wallpaper, by the way. It's gorgeous. Been posting all about it everywhere. Jimmy Smith, the Minkers, David, Savage, Jubo, Dylan, Scott. Hello. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing today? I'm excited because there's lots of things we can talk about. Primarily about the iPhone 10, yeah, but also yeah, I'm on the beta program now, and the beta hasn't shown any bugs so far. I've been unbelievably lucky with the beta program. I never really had that many problems with it to begin with, so not a big deal. But I just wanted the wallpapers. I watched Everything Apple Pro's video about how when you get the 11.2 beta, you get these wallpapers that they used in the ads, and these were the wallpapers I was really interested in. But it's exclusive to the 10 and exclusive to 11.2, so. Let's talk about the durability. Well, I'm not going to be doing any drop tests. I understand people's concern, but it's at the same time, like, you really shouldn't be throwing around a phone no matter how durable it is if you paid over $1,100 for it, and I think most people who bought it did pay around that price range. And when you've paid that much for it, it's like don't throw it around. Doesn't matter how durable it is. Doesn't matter how scratch resistant it is. Take care of it. Put a case on it if you're if you're kind of person who drops it a lot. Even if you don't drop phones a lot, if you don't have a history of breaking phones, just still be careful with it. Just to understand that you're holding this device that, like I said, yes, it's glass. Glass breaks. It's very straightforward, Jonathan. Thank you. It's very straightforward that glass is not a unbreakable element. If anything, it's more breakable, and the fact that most of it is made out of glass provides a very premium design. It feels great. It allows for great features to have that glass design. But it's also a great test of responsibility that if you spend this much money on a phone, you ought to take care of it. All right? Super Brianable says, I think I got sick picking up the iPhone 10. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I was a little bit sick before I picked up my iPhone 10, so that already happened. I'm still a little congested. I'm sorry if I sound weird. I may be coughing a little bit here on out, but what I encourage you guys to do if you're worried about durability on the iPhone 10, and I don't recommend this often, but check out Everything Apple Pro's videos on the iPhone 10. He's brutal with them. He tests them in ways that they really shouldn't be tested, like throwing them 20 feet deep in water and holding them there, throwing them in a box full of rusty bolts and razor blades and shaking it furiously. He dropped it from tons of different heights, and it really held up well. Now, there's other media outlets claiming that when you drop it from an average distance, the glass breaks immediately. This is my problem with drop test videos. Everyone has different experiences. You can't watch one video and apply it to every single iPhone. Some people, I'm sure, will be able to drop it from 15 feet onto concrete and it won't crack. Other people may drop it from 3 feet and it will crack. It's so random. It's so dependent on angles and speed and how it hits the floor and how it ricochets off the floor. There's so many variables that the point of drop test videos is so stupid to me, because it's not like you really shouldn't be out there watching a drop test video thinking, oh, it can withstand a 3-foot drop. I'm going to drop my phone now. Like, don't. Even if it can withstand 3 feet, that doesn't mean go drop your phone. Just be careful with it no matter what. Even if it's the most durable phone in the world, don't test it if you don't have to. And whether or not you watch the drop test and see that it survives or doesn't survive, accidents happen either way. So I don't get the point. But anyway, loved the gaming stream yesterday. Good. It was kind of funny, yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Jerry Rig Everything. I know a lot of people watch that, and I will say it's a much more sophisticated form of kind of tech destruction channel. There's channels out there that will just do the randomest things, like, you know, Everything Apple Pro threw his into like freezing water and just let it freeze there for 24 hours. It's like, okay, that's not a common thing. That's not what we're concerned about when we buy a phone. Is like, can I freeze it solid, and then will it work afterwards? It did, by the way, which was kind of creepy. But the bizarre thing I don't understand about Jerry Rig Everything, and kind of lots of YouTubers do this, is that stupid durability kit test where they take out the different pins and just scratch it. And it's like, that's not a common, no one intentionally or accidentally does that. It's like, okay, so the regular glass can withstand a durability rating of 6, and then it scratches at 7. It's like, okay, but no one's out there just buying their phones, buying these kits and scratching their phone intentionally. Why do we test it that way? If anything, the most reasonable one I could understand is like taking your car keys or your house keys and just kind of scraping them on it. It's like, okay, it didn't scratch. There you go. They'll take out butcher knives and stab their phone. It's like, people don't do that. Why do we need to find out what happens if you just shouldn't be doing that no matter what? Whether or not it can withstand it or it can't withstand it, why would you take a knife to your $1,200 smartphone? I don't get it. Yeah, public betas for 11.2 are available, and for once, I'm actually on them. I love this wallpaper. That's the only change. There may be tiny little changes with the betas, but no one cares. There's nothing. Yeah, it's for entertainment purposes only. I mean, they do it because it's fun to do it, or they're curious. But again, I just find it wasteful, especially when there's so many people waiting to get their iPhone 10 to find out that glass can shatter. It's great. We knew that. We knew that before. I'm talking about tech destruction as a whole. I'm not talking about any one particular YouTuber, but Jerry Rig Everything does it on just about every phone. He gets the scratch test with these different pins. It's like 1, 2, 3. Why does that matter? No one does that. Do tests that people would actually run into. And even if you paid $1,100 for your phone and it's super durable, don't put it next to your keys in your pocket and like intentionally, scrape them up. Accidents happen, sure. But I'm saying because accidents happen, whether or not they do take place, it doesn't matter if you watch the video. You'll see the scratches on your phone regardless. Drew, what can I do to be able to get that folio case from you? Well, to be honest with you, I'm working on the review for the folio case. I think I'm going to review the case before the phone. It's not great. You've definitely likely seen reviews of it that have come out early for people who are trying it out. There's nice things about it I like. It's not a terrible case. It's not a complete waste of money. But the reason I bought it was because a fan actually super chatted all the money for it and said buy a folio case. To whoever that was, thank you. I appreciate it. It's not helpful to me as a vlogger, and I can understand this not being a common scenario because I do something that not a lot of people do. I like to record my vlogs from the rear-facing camera because it has stabilization and 4K at 60. It looks better. This isn't helpful with that because, you try to hold it like this and it's awkward to hold. And then, of course, if you want to take the wallet section of it and hold it flat when you're holding it with one hand or whatever, it doesn't lay down flat very well. It kind of bulges out. There's a little too much material there. And also it covers up the camera. So I can't vlog like this. The camera's covered. So in order to vlog with the rear-facing camera, I have to hold it like this. There's something weird, and I don't like that. What I do like about it is the feel of it. It's made of genuine leather, which I really, really like. It feels very sturdy. It does not feel like a cheaply made case, which is good because it's not a cheaply made case. And I really, really like the feature that it auto-locks when I shut it closed. So I don't know if you can hear it. I'll get it close to the mic. But when you close it, it's... let me unlock it first. Let me see if it makes this. It made the sound a second ago. So yeah. So when you close it, it automatically shuts off, which is nice. I mean, there's not a lot of cases that do that. So it's not a that's a pretty exclusive feature. But also another problem though I do have with it is that this flap that holds all your credit cards and whatnot, which is nice, it doesn't stay on to the phone itself. There's no magnet keeping this closed, which means that when I hold it upside down, it just falls right off. It's kind of like, what am I trying to say here? Like my sister and my mom have like these purses that just kind of open. They don't have magnetically, they don't close or anything. This one doesn't close by any means. It just kind of unflaps, which is kind of weird and flimsy. It's not something you're expecting because you know that the folio case has magnets in it. You thought, I thought at least that when you close it, it would stay closed, at least with a little bit of security. But the fact that it doesn't close at all is kind of like, it feels weird. So not my favorite case, definitely not. Kadeb sent me a bunch of cases that I have just off camera, so I probably should have grabbed those. But they sent me 4 iPhone 10 cases that are all pretty average but pretty cheap. So I've been using those when I'm not using the folio case. Like, I wanted to review the folio case. That's why I'm using it right now. But in terms of vlogging and just day-to-day use, I'm not too big a fan of wallet cases. So with the permission, and I may have to go find him and message him. I don't know if he's watching this. But whoever donated the super chat so that I could buy the folio case, thank you very much. But I'm going to ask him what he would prefer, if he would rather me keep the case just to have around and to use occasionally, or if he would be okay with me giving it away to one of you guys, which would be fun because some of you may want it. People are saying Apple Pay Cash available. I haven't seen that in 11.2. I've looked and I didn't see it, but that'd be cool if it is. I've tried OtterBox cases before. I haven't tried one recently, but my biggest issue with OtterBoxes is, yes, they're very durable, but I like my phones to be slick. And sorry, excuse me, I'm still a little sick. I like my phone cases to fit in my pocket very easily, and that's another problem I have with this, is it makes your 10 very bulky. But at the same time, it does combine your wallet and phone, which is kind of sweet. You're like, okay, let me grab my phone and that's it. I'm good. You've got everything right here, which is kind of neat. So overall, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It's a very durable case. I'm sure that if it's nice knowing that this case, I don't like screen protectors on my phone, but the fact that the flap is covering the display means that if I drop this, the display would be fine, the build would be fine. It covers basically all of the stainless steel except a little bit at the bottom that just shows, the speaker grill and the lightning port. That's about it. Thanks for supporting. Yeah, appreciate it. Anthony says that Apple Pay Cash is available, but I don't know how to check for that because in my messages it's not there. So I might have to restart the phone or something, or there's a new beta or something, but I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it. Anyway, I'd be excited for it when it does come out. Silver or space gray? I got the space gray version. That's my favorite. It matches the ecosystem a lot better because everything I have is like within the space gray realm. I don't like the look of the silver one. I looked at it very briefly. I didn't get to use it, but when I was at the Apple Store, and for those of you who don't know, I just uploaded this morning my iPhone 10 launch day experience, which is, waking up early, going and waiting in line and getting into the Apple Store as soon as possible on Talos of Talks. So not this channel, but the vlogging channel, just Talks. You can see that whole experience over there. And over there, we got a brief look at the silver iPhone 10, but I didn't really like the look of it. That chrome finish on the edges, I know everyone loves that. It seems like every single YouTuber wanted the same one. But that one to me reminds me too much of like iPod Touch, iPod Classic days. And I just think this one looks so much cleaner. I like the space gray back. It looks nice. And I'd already been using a space gray iPhone 8 for so long. If you ask Siri whose phone it is, it will tell you the person and lock the phone thinking you are stealing it. Oh, interesting. That's weird. I haven't seen the D-brand grip case. I know everyone's talking about that. I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to pretend to know I know anything about it. I'm sorry if there's lag in the video and audio. That is something that always happens, and it's not my fault. It's YouTube's fault. The best thing you can do is refresh. If it doesn't fix it, I'm sorry. That's YouTube making problems for you. People were asking about the Samsung ad. I just think it's dumb. They've done this before, and they've done it again. For several reasons. For one, I don't think it's an applicable ad. Like, I don't think it helps convince anyone. Given the fact that, iPhone 10 is like one of the most high in demand smartphones of all time, and the fact that the pre-orders were insanity, and people were buying them like crazy, and people are still buying them up in bulk to like resell like they're silver and gold. And you don't see that happen with Galaxy phones. So there's obviously a reason people stick with those iPhones, and the ad was just showing off that the Galaxy phones have more features and they do more things. Um, it's it's proof that people will choose the iPhone because of the software. It's not just about the features. I mean, clearly Samsung is the king of features, and I don't mean to discredit Samsung. I think that Samsung's a great company. Um, and I also think it's kind of weird that they dissed the iPhone 10 after making it. Samsung made all of the displays, which are getting high remarks. They made all of the iPhone 10 displays, and there's companies calling the iPhone 10 display the best display ever in a smartphone. So I don't know why Samsung feels such a need to bash the 10, which they helped make. And they also actually, statistically, they make more money from the iPhone 10 than they do from the Galaxy S8, which means that the profit margin for the iPhone 10, because they're not the one doing the R&D for the iPhone 10, they're not the ones assembling it. All they're doing is providing the displays, the OLED displays that they use in them. Means that Samsung does not have to put in very much money, but they get out a lot of money from each individual iPhone 10. It's like Apple and Samsung work together on this. Why does Samsung feel the need to bash the phone they worked on? I feel like Samsung would have much better success bashing the Pixel or the Razer phone or some some other Android phone, because it's clear that, I mean, Samsung knows by the growth of iOS users and by the conversion rate to Apple that people choose an iPhone not because of the features. They choose it because of iOS, the optimization and the ecosystem. So making an ad showing that, we had waterproofing first, we had wireless charging first, we have a headphone jack, it's not going to convince anyone. I don't think the ad is changing anyone's mind. I don't think that does anything, and just making fun of the fact that it has a notch. They've made fun of Apple before. They're making fun of them now, and I just don't think it does anything. If anything, it's just kind of mean spirited. It doesn't. I don't think it tricks anyone into buying a Note. If you wanted to buy an iPhone 10, you wouldn't watch that ad and then want to buy a Note phone. They also didn't mention the Note 7, which I tweeted about. It's like they were going through all the years, but they didn't show the year when the gal had to return her glorious Note phone that is so much better than an iPhone, but it exploded. So, I mean, Samsung. You got to admit you're not perfect at the same time. It's not like everything's absolutely perfect with Galaxy phones, and I'm not saying everything's perfect with iPhones. I'm just saying, when you partner with a company to make a phone, why bash them? I feel like Samsung didn't help with the Pixel at all. Samsung competes with the Google team, the Google Pixel team, almost more directly, because when an iPhone sells well, Samsung gets reimbursed for it. When a Pixel sells well, Samsung doesn't get anything out of that. So I feel like if they just compared, just in a street test, just a video with, here's the Galaxy Note, here's the Google Pixel, here's all the things the Note can do, here's all the things the Pixel can do, and the Pixel can't do, and that's why the Note is better. I would think that would be more effective, because people who are looking for a good Android phone are kind of split between Pixel and Note, to like which is better. Some people may be leaning towards Note, some people may be leaning towards Pixel. I don't think there's many people on the fence about Galaxy Note versus iPhone 10. They're out there, I understand. It's a wide demographic. I'm sure there's people out there debating which is better or which is the better buy. I'm just saying, I think there would be more Android users debating which one to buy than Apple users debating switching to Galaxy. If you're an Apple user, you're most likely an Apple user not because of the features. So when Samsung attacks the lack of features, it doesn't do anything. It's just kind of mean. It's just kind of bullying. It's like, you don't have this and you're ugly. Okay, you're getting paid either way, Samsung, so relax. Anyway. Hello, Drew. What camera do you film with? I film with a Lumix FZ300. You can look that up on Amazon. It's a pretty affordable camera, but it's got some higher end specs like 1080 at 60 and 4K at 30. I don't choose to film in 4K because I film so much, which means that it would fill up very, very quickly. I'm hoping that if I get a Mac upgrade by the end of the year, I'll be able to have more hard drive space and have a bit more processing power so that I can work just as fast and make just as much content but at a higher resolution. So that's my goal, is to up the resolution to 4K, 4K at 60 next year at some point. Super Chat says, Tim Bryan says, what do you use your MacBook for versus iPad daily? Which is a great question. A lot of people ask that. My iPad is very useful for consumer use, browsing Twitter, texting people, browsing the web. I like to read the news on there. I like the ProMotion display, despite all my comments about how much I hate the Razer phone. I like 120 hertz. I never tried to make the argument that that's a bad feature, but it's nice on the iPad. It's not the reason I bought it, but it's nice. Just to have something, watching videos on something while also being able to do something else. I would say it's the best iOS multitasker because, iPhones don't do split view. And rightfully so. I've used split view on other phones before, and I just don't find it intuitive to try to cram 2 apps onto this tiny display best you can. Get a bigger display if you want to do multitasking. And for the 10.5-inch iPad, it's great. It's the perfect size. And my MacBook is primarily just for my work. I use it for live streaming, of course. It's necessary for that. I use it for video editing. I use it for managing certain sites because they don't, like Patreon, YouTube, Twitter, and stuff. There's certain advantages to the desktop version of stuff that you just can't get on iOS, which is frustrating. But yes, 120 hertz makes games better. That was never the debate. I was never trying to argue that with the Razer phone. A lot of people thought I was saying that 120 hertz is bad. That was never my point. I agree. It's better. It's better. But either way. Why does Google Pixel XL look like the fake iPhone 10? Well, the Pixel kind of looks like a fake version of everything, to be honest. The Pixel has this like cheaply made toy feel to it, and I know I'm not a big fan of jerry rig everything, but if you saw how like the build quality of the Pixel 2 is almost like plastic, it's almost like crayon wax. The fact that it's like, they call it aluminum, but the aluminum's underneath all this plastic on the outside. It's just kind of weird. It's not a good looking phone. That's why when people ask me to make videos or to talk about like the display issues, talk about the color, the saturation problems, or the OLED burn-in displays people are having, I didn't have that big problem with it because I thought even if the release was perfect, even if the Pixel team didn't send out phones that didn't have an OS on them. Yeah, that happened. Even if the Pixel team made a perfect display with all the colors right, it's still a weird-looking phone. I don't like the look of it. The top piece being glass for no reason, just because it's unique in the colored power button. And the fact that it's plastic with aluminum underneath. Again, I have no idea why they did that. I thought the first Pixel probably worked and was a bit more durable. I didn't need to make fun of the Pixel even further because I thought even if the Pixel had a perfect release, it's still not a good phone. I still wouldn't recommend it, even if the release was perfect. And then the fact that the release was so bumpy and that they ran into so many problems, that was just a cherry on the top for me. I was like, yeah, it's bad. There's already more news articles being published. I just saw one this morning saying that the certain kind of anti-reflective coating for Pixel 2s is rubbing off way sooner than it's supposed to, and it's leaving like permanent smudges on the phones, and I'm just like, ugh, I'm so glad I'm not a Pixel fan right now. Anyway. Yes, I'm sorry if the connection of the stream is bad. Keep in mind that can be on your end. Live streams are harder to load than regular videos. So if you're used to watching things in 720p, a live stream might only load at 360 to 480. Had to cancel my iPhone 10 pre-order because I lost my job. I'm so sorry. But you know what, Ricky? I think that's an incredibly mature and reasonable decision. I think there's a lot of people out there who, even if they lost their job, still would have bought the iPhone 10, which is a very bad idea. I think it's really good idea to realize your own limits and to be smart about how you spend your money. And $1,000 iPhone plus, you can't buy an iPhone 10 for $1,000. Count taxes, count activation fees, and of course, people in other country, every 10 seconds, people have to bring up the fact that I donated. In our country, it's $2,000. In our country, it's $3,000. Like I get that. it's really important to understand that if you're in a financial situation where you cannot comfortably afford that, please do not do it. It's it's not worth it. Okay, the display is great, the cameras are great. It's the best phone I've ever used in my life. That doesn't mean go bankrupt. Okay, it's just a phone. There are cheaper phones out there that will do what you need them to. I buy this phone because I'm reviewing it. It's for my job. If this tech channel was not my job, I likely would not have bought it. I'll just come out and say that. If I was working at the Mandarin Ranch full time and I didn't do YouTube, or YouTube wasn't a full time gig, I likely would not have purchased this. Just because I'd be working at a minimum wage job part time, not making a ton of money, so I wouldn't spend all of the money I had on something so expensive. So that, Ricky, I'm sorry, and I hope you can find another job lined out pretty quickly. But I think you did the right. I think you did the right thing, and that could be a great lesson to other people out there who maybe cannot buy the 10 yet and are thinking about it. Just don't break your bank account for it. Make sure you do it affordably and smartly. Does your iPhone 10 overheat? I don't. I haven't experienced that, and I've done quite a lot with it. I've definitely used it more than I used to use my phone because it's so fun to use, and it's so cool to experience the edge to edge platforms and to see what apps are optimized and not optimized. I've been using this more than I usually use my phone. Like I use this more than my iPad just recently, but that's the same occasion for any Apple product. When you first buy it, you have a draw to use it more often, and then as time goes on, its usage goes down a little bit, and then it becomes just your casual phone. But as of right now, because I've only owned it for few days, I'm using it a lot, and I've airdropped a lot of stuff with it. I've recorded a lot of stuff with it. It doesn't really get hot. It doesn't. I mean, I don't necessarily know what you guys mean by overheat. Overheat sometimes can just mean it's warm, which is perfectly normal. Technology gets warm, guys. It's not a crazy thing. I wirelessly charge it. By the way, I've still continued my portless challenge onto the 10. Nothing has been plugged into the Lightning port. It is still completely a portless phone. The Lightning port is unnecessary for me. So yeah, I haven't plugged anything into this. Warm does not equal overheat. Yeah, I'd like people to make sure that clear. Overheat typically means that it gets so hot that the phone stops working. And at least in other areas of tech, I believe that's what overheat means, is that it's either unusable because you can't hold it, or unusable because the phone shuts down because it's so hot. And I don't think that's happening. I feel like that would make the news a bit more. I think more people are just saying that it gets warm when they do certain things. But all tech does. I'll feel my MacBook is very hot right now because I'm live streaming, and that requires a lot of processing and a lot of uploading. It's very hot, but it gets hot every time I use it, and I've been using it for almost a year now. It still works great. Hasn't slowed down at all. Overheat could also mean thermal throttling, but the 10 doesn't have that problem. I haven't heard anyone saying that it has like a overheat problem. To me, overheat means that it can't be used because it's so hot. And I haven't heard of that. I've just heard of people saying it gets warm, but what doesn't? It's a technology. It's doing a lot of work. If you've seen the teardowns of the 10, it's quite amazing that they fit all of the processor and components into a very small section of it. Only a little bit of the 10 is really computer components, and then the rest of it is battery. So that part of the phone that, is this tiny piece of it that holds the A11 chip, holds all the cameras and the Face ID and all the storage and whatnot. That part of it is definitely going to get hot because it's doing a lot of things. I mean, your 10 is a very capable device. It's rendering all of these apps and loading all these screens at an incredibly high resolution, Super Retina, also activating Face ID features and registering faces and being ready for tap to wake at all times and all the stuff. It's doing a lot of stuff. It's going to get hot. But mine right now, not warm at all. If anything, it's cold. My phone feels completely cold. Excuse me. For those of you asking for higher resolution streams, when I do that, we have more video and audio sync problems, statistically. When I try to stream at a higher resolution, people get upset because they're like, it's not loading for me. It also means that the lag between what's actually happening and what you guys are seeing is further away because the computer has to process more stuff. We might get there one day, but I don't have the Wi-Fi or the hardware for it, and I have the best Wi-Fi available in my area, and I'm not really interested in buying more hardware to make the streams look slightly better. So half the stream, more than half the stream, can't even watch this at 720p. So it really doesn't matter to make it even hotter. It gets really hot when you watch YouTube. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't overheat though. That's different. Phones get warm. I've felt phones get warm before too, but that's just what they do. They're computing things. Thank you guys. I'm glad that resolution isn't terribly important to you. I mean, it's a live stream. We can't do too much. Get that fiber gigapower. If that was available here, I would love to. But I currently have the fastest Wi-Fi that is available at my current location, which is Xfinity. It gets really hot around the Apple logo. Like, guys, computers get hot. I don't know if you've known this, but most tech, like MacBooks, they've had fans in them. And iOS devices, they don't have fans in them, but their CPUs are specifically designed so that they don't get unusably hot. I don't know a lot of people, very rarely, it's happened, but very rarely does tech get so hot that it has to turn off. I've had that happen, but it's only when I'm using it constantly and I'm outside. Here in California in the summer, it gets very, very hot here. And when we're filming stuff for like the main channel, we're filming outside and we've got our script on our iPad. It'll be in the sun, it'll be sitting in the sun, and it'll be on with full brightness for a long time. Then it'll shut down and just say, we need it to be cooler. And it'll just be off for a little while and then turn back on. What do you think of the Folio case? I wasn't a fan of it without a magnet to keep it closed. Yeah, it's not my favorite case. I don't think I'm going to keep using it. YouTube keeps a list of everyone who's ever super chatted. So I'm going to go find the guy who donated the $100 and said buy the Folio. And I'm going to ask what he's okay with. Whether he wants me to just keep it or he'd be okay with me giving it away. Or perhaps even selling it to someone for a lower price. We'll see what he wants because this really is his case. I mean, he sent it to me to buy, and I'm going to review it. I'm planning on tomorrow's video being a review of the Folio case because it's $100 and it looks very good on the store. But I think more people should know about some of its limitations that I'm definitely not a fan of. I really don't like that many cases on my phones typically. But the fact that this was brand new and that it was exclusive to the 10 was attractive to me, so that's what I got. What dongle are you using? This is from Quack Quack. I know it's kind of a weird name. I'll type it in the chat. If you want to get the same dongle I use, it's very, very good. It's been extremely reliable. I've been using it for a long time. It brings back basically all of your old ports, and it only takes up one port. So via one USB-C cable, this thing can power a lot. It has 3 traditional USB ports. It has a USB-C power port, so you can charge through this as well. SD card slot, micro SD card slot, HDMI cable, and Ethernet. So basically all of your old ports, it comes right back. And they come in different colors. They sent me the gold one because I didn't buy it. Full disclosure, they did send it to me for free to review, which I did. But they have a space gray one and a silver one. And they're not cheap. They're like $50 to $60, but they work really, really well. I've used cheaper ones. I used to find these ones that had old USB traditional ports and HDMI and all that. But those would break very, very quickly. I would plug them in and they would work for a while. But then if you held them at wrong angles, they wouldn't work. And those are like the $20 to $30 dongles. They look good and they work good for a while, but then they break. This one I have used for like 5 to 6 months and still works perfectly fine. It doesn't matter what angle it's at. It works fine. I love it. Yeah, the cheap ones don't work that well. I know it feels a little bit weird to be spending $50 to $60 on an adapter, but it is worth it in the long run because a lot of people are just like, oh, the MacBook, I can't buy it because I don't want to plug in old ports to it. They're like, oh, I have to buy all new dongles. I got to buy all these adapters. You literally buy one and you're good. I have one of these and that's all I've needed. I've never ran out of ports on the dongle. I've never ran out of ports on the adapter. I've been sent the dock case, which was a Kickstarter project, which is okay. I don't think it makes as much sense as an adapter, but it's kind of funny. I've been able to plug in the Quack Quack adapter, which you can find on Amazon or anywhere. Um, Plug that into my MacBook Pro, and then also plug in the dock case. Now I have more ports than the MacBook ever had, and actually have more ports than some iMacs. I mean, if you plug in the Quack Quack adapter and the dock case, now I still have two USB-C ports available on the MacBook Pro itself. I have six traditional USB ports. I have two SD card slots, two micro SD card slots, two extra HDMI ports. The dock case provides two more USB-C ports and an Ethernet port. It's just a crazy number of ports just from two adapters. It's great. How much would you sell the case for? Again, I don't know if I'm selling it because the guy who super chatted for it, I would like him to decide what happens to it. I would hate it if someone sent me a product to review for free and then I sold it without consulting them. I think that wouldn't be fair. So I'm gonna try to contact him. If I can't contact him, I'll just take matters into my own hands. But if anything, I'll give it away. I probably wouldn't sell it. I would give it to one of you guys. Is that a venti? Yeah, this is a large drink, hot white mocha. It helps me. I usually don't drink coffee, but it gets cold and I get tired and I'm suffering from insomnia a little bit. I have a hard time sleeping, but I slept okay last night. So anyway, do you play games on your Mac or MacBook? Not really. I'm not much of a gamer, but the Apple TV is great for games. Whenever I'm bored, there's plenty of different a wide selection of games on the Apple TV that I like to play on. You can play with a paired controller that works really really well. It works just like a console. I would consider the Apple TV a console. A lot of people don't. It's definitely not the highest performing console, and then it doesn't have a ton of AAA games on it. But I think it works just like one. My name is Andrew. Yeah, I like that my Apple TV can be used for AirPlay and Netflix and 4K, but also do like a lot of other games like Minecraft and Alto's Adventure. And not, like I said, not graphically intensive games, but they're fun. I play on them. I have played games on my MacBook. I have Windows 10 on here, dual boot, like not by default, but when I want to, I can switch it over to Windows 10, and I've played CS:GO, I've played Battlefield 4, I've played uh, I haven't booted it onto Windows 10 very often. I'm trying to remember because like I said, I'm not really a gamer. I don't own GTA, but I could get it. I don't play a lot of AAA games or Xbox, PlayStation. I don't play that kind of stuff. But you love playing Super Mario Odyssey, don't you? Definitely not Minecraft. Exactly. Go watch that on Talos of Gaming. What kind of further integration would you like to see the Mac in the Apple Watch? I wish that the Apple Watch could unlock the Mac without requiring two-factor authentication because that will ruin your life. I hate that. When you turn on two-factor authentication, it has to ask you for like your blood type and your social security number. That's a joke, but still, there's so many extra steps to make that work, and the whole purpose of having a watch unlock the Mac was that you didn't have to enter a password. To activate two-factor authentication, you have to go through all these different procedures and you have to make new security questions and you have to enter your password 8 times. Oh, it's so annoying. But if they could just let the Mac unlock with your Apple Watch like that, don't require two-factor authentication, I would use it all the time. Whereas to activate it now, it's such a hassle. There's so many extra steps you have to take. Ugh. If you have the money. What is your genuine opinion on iOS notification management versus Android? Well, Emmett, first of all, everything I say is my genuine opinion. I don't lie to you on here. Even if it's a sponsored video, even if the company sends me something to review for free, I'm not going to just blindly say yes to it or agree to give it a positive review. Like the doc case was neat and it was a Kickstarter project and they sent it to me for free to review. I didn't have terribly nice things to say about it. I mean, it works, but I don't think it's better than just buying an adapter. They kind of missed the point with it. So I'll be honest about it, anything. But for your specific question, I think Android has way too many notifications. They notify you about things they don't need to notify you about. Um, like three times a day, they like to send you a notification for the weather. Or they like to fill up your lock screen when apps are done downloading. I don't like that. I don't like that every time there's a notification, they have to store it in the top widgets icon. That gets full very very quickly, and then it's burdensome. Even the people who are like, you can limit it to just show three. I even three. iOS does nothing. Like when there's notifications, it doesn't add to the top piece of the OS. It gets so complicated so quickly. Um, and I can only just be thankful that they have a clear all notifications button on Android because you really need it on Android. They like to notify you the weather even when you're outside. You think Google would be smart enough to know that, hey, if he's driving somewhere, he's outside. You don't need to light up my phone so it goes glunk, glunk, and then you check it and it says it's 78 degrees. I know. Thank you. Whatever. Or it likes to notify. It will take you this long to drive home. It will take you this long to drive to work. I drive home and I drive to work every day, Google. You don't need to tell me those things. So I feel like when you get Android, you have to go in and turn all these things off and all these notifications and make sure that your top widget icon thing doesn't get filled up. It's terrible. Way too many. Way too many. Why didn't you get the silver iPhone 10? Well, I talked about that. I don't think it looks very good. I don't like the Chrome look. Besides, I have a space gray ecosystem. And the Chrome reminds me of iPod Touch, iPod Classic days, and I feel like that would show scuffs and stuff more easier. I don't get the people saying that the space gray collects fingerprints easier. I don't know what that means at all. The white one collects fingerprints just as easily. If it's on a white glass, you can't see the fingerprints. I haven't noticed that. You can also control if and when apps update or just update on Wi-Fi, stuff like that. You can control weather notifications, location services. It's nice having that kind of control. I don't want control over that. I just don't want it. I prefer iOS because that's just not there. I don't need to be notified about the weather. If I want to know the weather, I'll ask. I think it's a fundamental difference between Android and iOS is Android wants to show off. It wants you to change your lifestyle to fit that phone. As in, like, ask random questions throughout the day to our intelligent Google Assistant because machine learning and AI is the future. We are the king. Whereas iOS helps me do what I'm already doing. It creates shortcuts. Apple Pay, shortcut, Siri is there when you need it, but she's not going to jump onto the screen and say, use me now, use me. I'm so helpful. They're not going to put a dedicated button on the phone just for Siri. Um, I I prefer iOS because it doesn't try to make me live my life a different way. It tries to help me live the life I'm already living. Whereas Android is more about taking more steps to include Google in your daily life, right? I'm not sitting around the office or sitting at home wondering random facts and having to shout, "Okay, Google, what's blah blah blah." I don't even care if I set off one of your devices because I don't have any. Whereas that it's not a goal with Apple. Apple is to sell you good products that work, whereas Google's all about use more Google Assistant services. Buy Google Home Mini, buy Google Home, buy this so that you can use our services. Use our machine learning. Buy this little camera that takes random pictures of you when you don't know it. And then go to Google Photos and look at all the pictures it took. It's weird. What does the big button on the side of the phone do? It's a power button. It can be Siri, but it's a multifunctional button. It's Apple Pay, it's power, it's screenshot, it's Siri, it's everything. I'm talking about Samsung making a button on the phone that literally has one function, Bixby. And for the first 6 months of having it, you couldn't change it. They finally let you remap it, but still, I'd rather just not have that button. Hey, weren't you gonna give the iPhone 8 Plus to the fan who generously donated? How come you're selling it to your girlfriend? Because he decided he did not want the 8 Plus. Um, I tried to buy. He wanted the smaller sized 8. When I was at the Apple Store, I tried to get the 8. Um, they were doing this weird thing where because so many people were getting the 10, they weren't really selling anything else until 10 o'clock. And because we had to leave, we couldn't get it. As well as my bank was acting weird because they were like, why are you spending so much money at the same time? So I reimbursed the fan. I don't know where he is in the chat. I don't even know if he's watching this, but I guarantee you I've been in contact with him this whole time. I gave him back all of his money that he super chatted plus a little extra, just because I felt bad for him and I felt like I wasn't able to supply him with the phone. There was also likely going to be some customs issues with sending an unlocked phone to a different country. Shipping it would have been a hassle. So it was very nice of him to donate and be willing to donate, but he was not upset about it at all. I can show you screenshots if you want to sue me. Um, but I did reimburse him plus an extra $60 on top of that, just um, because he was willing to donate, and I just felt bad that I wasn't able to get it for him. I tried to. Why you hate Android so much without any reason? There's plenty of reason. I've provided plenty of reason. You just got to watch a little bit more. Notch is becoming one of my favorite features. I fixed the horrible call/location bar I've been hating for years. Display is really nice too. Thank you for your donation. Yeah, it is. I'm actually liking the notch more than I thought, because what it means is Apple has to, like, they're not careless with all the stuff they put in the top bar. Like, sometimes it gets a little annoying when you have like the Bluetooth icon, the alarm icon, and the Wi-Fi icon, and the battery icon, and the cellular icon. It starts to stack up and it looks really busy at the top. What I like about the notch is it forces them to be careful about what they're showing. It forces them to only show the the important things. They don't have to show too much at once, because they can't show too much at once. It limits them, and I actually kind of like that. And it's like when they remove the notch, I hope they keep doing this, because I like that they're more efficient about space. They don't show any more than they have to when they're using the notch. I like that. It keeps that top of the phone black, and I like that. It looks clean. I don't think the Folio is worth it for me. No, other people might want it. It could definitely work for certain people, but for me, it doesn't, because I like to vlog with my phone, and this is awkward with the flap on the back. It makes it very hard to vlog. The phone looks too plain without the notch. Well, I hate to break it to you, but I think the notch is going to go at some point. Probably not next year, or maybe not even the year after that. But I think it may. It's probably going to leave at some point. When they figure out a way to embed the sensors underneath the screen, they'll probably ditch it. Um, like that's the issue we're having with smartphones, is they're all the competitors are all going to start to look the same. Um, as everyone shrinks bezels further and further, eventually we're just going to have 100% display on all of our phones. But again, Apple's still going to win that battle, because even when all phones look the same, it won't be as exciting. First of all, getting phones won't be as fun because all of them will look the same. But what will matter is what's on the display, and that's why people buy iPhones, is because of iOS. New iPad with no bezels and Face ID. Again, I think they'll be a bit more hesitant to apply the iPhone 10 design to an iPad, because you'll hold an iPad a little differently, and you kind of need space for your thumbs to rest. But you guys should watch my 2018 iPad Pro concept I did with Dale Boomstick, who did the concept for them. He did a really good job with my concept idea of, okay, so the 10.5-inch iPad got thinner bezels, right? So those side bezels, Apple agrees that that's thin enough for you to hold your fingers on. They've accepted that. I'm saying what I like about the 10 is it has the same size bezel all the way around. So what they could do for next year's iPad is get the 10.5-inch side bezel, make that the same size bezel all the way around. And that's a pretty thick bezel. It's thicker than the notch itself, which means that I think you could add Face ID to that design without having to have a cutout. I don't think you would need a cutout on the iPad. I think you could hide Face ID in the side bezel just fine. iPads are also a lot bigger. The Face ID sensor is like competing for space with the back camera. That's, for those of you who don't know, the reason the rear-facing camera is vertical instead of horizontal is because all of the sensors inside the phone are taking up space on the notch now, which meant that they couldn't build the dual camera that way. There wasn't room, so they had to build it down. Whereas an iPad has tons of room for cameras and sensors, so they wouldn't have to be competing for space. Also, you wouldn't need an earpiece on the iPad's Face ID area, so the Face ID sensors could take up a lot less space because there's no earpiece on an iPad. There's no front-facing stereo speaker or anything. All the speakers are all around the iPad. So I think you could embed Face ID into an iPad without a notch. And also, I think it would be very, very heavy, but if you added a glass back, you could move into wireless charging on that. Right? Why you ginger? But never mind, you're doing a good job anyhow. Thank you, old Dater. I don't know why I'm a ginger. I was born this way. I like it when you talk against Google Photos because it screws with your privacy. Well, that's just something people should acknowledge. I don't mind that very much. It's not a big deal to me because I have nothing to hide. Google can look through all my pictures. There's nothing there. Um, but for some people, that is a big deal. Sometimes privacy is important for other people, and I totally respect that. Um, Google Photos is free and it's unlimited because it's not private. When a product is free, it means that you are the product. Google sells user data and they apply their machine learning and their AI on the Google Photos that you upload. So it's not encrypted. A lot of people will compare, why is iCloud, $3 a month for 200 gigs and why is Google Photos free? Because Google sells that data to other companies for investigation and they apply it. They can look at all of your individual pictures. They can see all of that. That is not private. That is not encrypted to you. With iCloud, it is. When you're backing up photos to the photo library, there is some basic machine learning on the iOS and macOS devices themselves that like pair them into albums and stuff, saying like, here's all the picture of one person, here's all the pictures of your trip to this location. But Apple does not have access to all of those. You can store them all in their cloud services, but they don't apply machine learning on them. They don't sell those pictures to other companies for data and stuff. That's why one is free and one is not. Okay, so I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to say that Google Photos is worse for that reason because I use it. I like that Google Photos is unlimited backup, and because I have nothing to hide, I back up everything to Google Photos too. It's free. But it's just something to keep in mind out there for people wondering, why does Apple charge for cloud storage and Google doesn't? It's because you are the product when it comes to Google. With Apple, you're not the product. You're paying for the product. Photo identification actually happens inside the device. Exactly. The phones themselves is what combines all of that machine learning, the photo libraries. Like, here's all the picture of this person and whatnot. You get the picture. Yes, the 10 is out. Don't worry about the burn-in issue. For those of you who don't know, OLED is a very fragile type of display. It's a very beautiful display, but don't hesitate to buy the 10 because of the OLED burn-in issue. The only times that happens is when people are careless with them. And again, I don't know why Apple didn't do this, but within the code of iOS, in the auto lock settings, there is an option to have it never turn off, which means that if your phone is on and you leave it resting down, it will stay on until the battery's dead. That is not good for OLED displays. OLED will burn in when it's showing the same thing for too long. That's why, if you didn't know, on things like your Touch Bar on your MacBook Pro, it doesn't stay on permanently because it would burn in. Same with the Apple Watch. It does not have an always-on display, not just because of the battery, but because OLED is fragile and it doesn't burn in. I feel like the failure to gray out the never auto lock feature on the 10 was a mistake. I don't know why they didn't gray that out. That is an issue, but it's not on by default, first of all. When you first buy the iPhone 10, it auto locks after 30 seconds. I turned mine up to 2 minutes because 30 minutes was a little too fast for me. But the OLED burn-in problem is not a major thing on tons of iPhones. All you have to do is make sure that your auto lock is not set to never, and it should be fine. Even if you set it to 5 minutes, it's not going to burn in. The people who are experiencing burn-in problems were leaving it on never and just making the phone just stay on permanently. And that's what happens to any OLED display. When you leave it on the same screen and it doesn't move, you will experience burn-in. Pixel users were experiencing that too. But don't hesitate to buy the 10 for that reason. It's very rare, and it only happens when you're careless with your device. 30 minutes too fast? When do you think the last port on iPhone will be gone? I don't think next year. I think that's a little too soon. I think they want to get fast wireless charging down, and they want to get actual padless, portless charging a little bit down too, because there's companies working on wireless chargers that work from a while away. They don't require pads. You just have this little dome-shaped thing that sits on your table or your desk, and it can charge your phone from like a foot away. That already exists. And it's safe. It applies to regulations, FCC regulations. It doesn't harm anyone. They probably want to perfect that so that you could use it from 2 to 3 feet away. That way you can just hold your phone in a certain proximity, because if it works 3 feet away, it's like, okay, now it works the same way a 3 foot lightning cable works, except no wire required, which people would like. So I think they're going to perfect that first. And once they can perfect that, then there will be no point in having a lightning port. There will be those occasional uses when they, want to factory restore them and stuff, but I think it would be more like the Apple Watch, where they kind of have a secret port hidden in the phone itself. So maybe they would hide that secret port that allows you to factory reset the phone or let you restore it. Like the secret port on the Apple Watch can really only be accessed by people at Apple, and it allows them to activate the demo mode of the Apple Watch so that it just is on an infinite loop. They could hide that in the SIM card tray. They could hide it inside the phone somewhere. They could hide it in like a smart connector or they could even figure out a way to do it wirelessly. I don't know. But I just think that we should be ready for the port to go at any time, because Apple is known for ditching things before we think we're ready to ditch them. So that's why I'm doing the portless challenge. Like if they remove the Lightning port next year, I would be ready. I wouldn't do anything differently. But realistically, I'm anticipating they won't ditch it till 2019, 2020. 2019 would still be pretty soon. But again, I'll be ready for it no matter when it is. All we have to do is start seeing those rumors and leaks saying the next iPhone won't have a port. Then everyone will lose their mind and then forget about it. And then when it comes out, they'll lose their mind again and freak out. And then everyone else will follow through with it later. Jerry Rig Everything would be very mad. He wants his headphone jack. You know what would be fun? What if they got rid of the Lightning port but brought back the headphone jack? It'd be kind of weird. Yeah, every OLED display has burn-in when you're careless with it. People should understand that about OLED. I don't know why Apple didn't gray out that option. I'll show it to you for those of you who don't know where it is. Unlock it real quick. When you go into settings, just scroll down to display and brightness. Auto lock. In here, you got 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, all the way down to never. When you select it to never, it means that the phone won't turn off, and that's how you get OLED burn-in. I don't know why they didn't gray that out. Like, they shouldn't have an option on the phone that can hurt the phone. I think in a software update later, they should definitely gray this option out. 5 minutes is still even pushing it. I guess not really, because you can watch videos on your phone for hours and hours. But the difference is when you're watching videos on your phone, the display is changing. When OLED pixels are warping and doing different things, and the display is actually in use, you don't have burn-in. What causes OLED burn-in is the same image, the same screen, displaying the same thing for long periods of time. They should really get rid of that. I don't know why that's still there. So I have mine set to 2 minutes because I can still set it down and it'll stay on for a while. And when I forget about it, it'll turn off. But don't not buy the 10 because of burn-in issue. That's something all phones have. I don't know why the software lets you do that. But again, it's not on by default. It's not turned on automatically. Yeah. iPhone 10 full review when? I'm planning on doing a full review probably this weekend. So I'd like to do Refried Friday, and then after that, probably on Saturday, the full review. And I have to say, it's probably going to be pretty basic. There's been an overwhelming amount of positivity with the iPhone 10. If you've watched a lot of other YouTubers' opinions on it, they really do like it. They love the display, they love the cameras, and we haven't even talked about the DxOMark scores yet. I think I need to make a whole video about that. I think I want to review the Folio case, but after the Folio case review, I want to talk about the DxOMark scores and how the iPhone 10 got the highest photography score of any mobile phone. But it didn't beat the Pixel in videography somehow, even though the iPhone has 4K at 60, 1080 at 240, and a dual camera and dual optical image stabilization. I also don't know why DxOMark gives the Galaxy Note 8 a 94. I think that's incredibly low. It's not how I would rank them at all. I have very specific problems with DxOMark that MKBHD touched on, but I need more elaboration on. He brought up that they value different things. They put color and contrast at the top, and it works its way down from there. I think the ranking of how they rate photo and video is completely backwards. I would almost flip them exactly. Why is color and contrast above stabilization? if your phone's stabilization isn't good, then the video looks awful. I don't care how good the color and contrast is. If it's not stable, it looks terrible. And they put that at the very, very bottom. And the iPhone 10 performed better with bokeh, portrait mode shots. I think that is a big deal. And on the Pixel 2, it was much lower in the bokeh setting. But they're like, bokeh doesn't matter too much. It's like, no, that matters. I would put that near the top. I don't think people complain about color and contrast very much. When you get two pictures and one gets them a little bit lower saturated, no one cares. Unless you're a photo review site, most people aren't going to notice that kind of thing. Unless you're taking the two, okay, this one's a little less colorful. That doesn't mean the other one is more accurate. One thing I've noticed when you're comparing two phones, if you're comparing a Android phone, whether it's Samsung or Google, to an iPhone, if the iPhone is not as colorful, then they say the iPhone gets it desaturated. If the iPhone is more colorful, then they say the iPhone is way oversaturated. It's like it's all subjective of which is more accurate. So I'm gonna make a whole video about DxOMark. I'm fed up with them. Great content, been here since 5,000 subs. Do you think next year iPhones be cheaper because it will look like this year's models will feature Face ID? Yes, of course. Next year's iPhones, as we've already seen by leaks and rumors, a phone very similar to the iPhone 10 or just the iPhone 10 itself will get significantly cheaper next year. They're saying that the Face ID sensors are going to be easier to make, and they'll be able to produce more of them. And yeah, all three iPhones next year will have Face ID, no Touch ID. Even one that will have an LCD display will still have Face ID. They'll definitely be cheaper. If anything, they'll just reduce the price of the 10, not change anything about it, and just lower it to $800 to $700, which would be great. Let's talk about AirPower. It looks great. It's not out yet. It's rumored to cost $200, which is accurate to me. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. Some people were like, $200. What they don't realize is, I think what you're paying for with AirPower is the USB-C charge brick. If you didn't know, I'll show it to you here. See, I use my MacBook in a lot of places, and I was like, I keep having to unplug this charger everywhere I go. Maybe I should just get a second MacBook charger. Getting a USB-C cable and sorry, someone's here. Getting a USB-C cable and this power brick is like $100. So half of the AirPower mat is probably that. Anyway, it's time to go. We've been live streaming for about an hour. Thank you guys for your comments and questions. Really looking forward to making more videos about the iPhone 10. There's plenty more coming your way. Thank you for all your comments and questions. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.